Good morning to all. Myself Shreya and today we are going to learn about a very interesting topic which is sorting materials. Now we had just learned about how to sort the materials according to the appearance. You can go through that video by clicking on the I button at the corner and then you can see that video. Now, in today's video, we are going to discuss how to sort the materials according to the hardness. Now, firstly, what is hardness? So, you will say like sponge, if we will take an example of a sponge. So, sponge is not hard, right? And if we will take example of hammer, for example, so hammer is hard. So, if we will compare a sponge to a hammer, we will say that hammer is very hard as compared to the sponge. Now, firstly, what is the definition of hardness? What is hardness? Now, we can say like hardness is something, the material. If that material is very hard, so we will not able to press it or deform it. For example, if I want to just deform this marker, so can I be able to? Of course not. So we can say that it is a little hard. But if we will talk about some another materials which are more hard, for example, diamond. So do you know that diamond is very hard? Yes, it is. Now we cut the glass with the help of the diamond. Now, is the cutting has any relation with the hardness? So, it is a very interesting question. Let's take an example to understand this. So, for example, if you are cutting a paper, so you are going to use a scissor, right? But what will happen if you will use a paper scissor? That means the scissor which is made up of the paper, just like origami. So with the help of the origami, a scissor which is made up of the paper. So can you be able to cut that paper? Of course not. So why can't we cut a paper with the paper scissor and we can cut the paper with the usual scissors which are just made up of plastic or metals like at the tip? Now why is this? So that's because there is some sort of relation between the cutting and the hardness. If the material is not hard, so how can it cut or how can it just deform? It is like type of deforming something, just changing its shape. So how can something cut if it is not hard? We can't cut anything with the help of a paper. Or we can cut something. Let's see. So if you will take a paper and if you will just very carefully, if you will very carefully at the tip, if you will just do like this, so what will happen? Do you know that we can have a bleeding with the paper also? At the tip of the paper, if you will just very carefully, you have to do like that. So then we will also have bleeding. So, is paper hard? Now this is a very interesting question for you and I want you to solve this and explore this question. Now, let's move on. So, cutting has a little bit of relation with the hardness. Now, let's move on and let's talk about the definition of hardness. What is hardness first? So, an ability of an object to withstand an attempt of deforming it. Deforming is called its hardness. So, hardness is defined like an object and just an ability of an object to withstand an attempt of deforming it. So that is what the definition of hardness is. What does that mean? What do you mean by deforming? Deforming means changing its shape, right? Now, hardness is defined like an ability of an object. For let's take an example of this marker. So the ability of this marker to withstand an attempt of deforming it. So if I will try to deform it, and if it doesn't deforms, that means it is a hard substance. So the harder it is, the more ability it has to withstand an attempt of deformation. Now, that's what the definition of hardness is. So, I think that it is clear. Now, let's see a very interesting thing here. So, there are basically two more types of hardness, which is scratch hardness and rebound hardness. Let's write down. Scratch hardness and also one more, which is rebound hardness. Now, what do you mean by the scratch hardness? Now, scratch hardness is type of like that. If we will try to scratch an object and if it is tough to scratch, so we can say it has scratch hardness, which means the definition of the scratch hardness you can think of like how difficult it is to scratch that object gives the measure of the scratch or a scratch hardness of its scratch hardness. Now let me write down it. So here, let me write this rebound hardness. So, how difficult it is to scratch that object gives the measure of scratch hardness of its scratch hardness for its scratch hardness. Now let me read this again. How difficult it is to scratch that object, gives the measure of its scratch hardness. Now if it is very difficult to scratch that object, that means it has more scratch hardness, like that type of. Now if this is clear, let's move on to the rebound hardness. It is very simple. Let's take an example of the rebound hardness, and after that we will be clear about the rebound hardness. Rebound example this marker. So if I will drop this marker on the table and if like that, so if I will drop this marker to the table, it will bounce a little, right? So the higher it bounces, the higher rebound hardness it has, and the lower it bounces, the lower rebound hardness it has. So very simple, I think it is clear what is a rebound hardness. Now let's see some hardest materials or harder materials. So someone will ask you, what is the hardest material? So what will be your answer? Maybe you will think of the diamonds. Yes? Now do you know that diamond is not the hardest material? There is one more. What is that? Which is harder than the diamond. What is that? So that is lonsdaleite. Now let me write down the name. Lonsdaleite. That is, okay, I have just written a wrong spelling here. Lonsdaleite. Now this is the substance which is harder than the diamond. Now, is it the hardest one? There is one more which is harder than the lonsdaleite. So what is that? So basically that substance has a very weird type of name. That is basically Wurtzite boron nitride. Very weird name. Let me write down this. So here we had seen some of the hard substances. Firstly, here we can see diamond, and the lonsdaleite is more harder than the diamond, and at the last, Wurtzite boron nitride is more harder than even lonsdaleite. Now here we can see some weird name. So it is very interesting actually. Now I think that this all is clear to you. Now do you know how to get the measure, how to see is that substance harder or not? How you can say that this substance, let's say two identical substances are there. For example, these two markers. So how you will state that which marker is harder? Now for just comparing the hardness, what do we do? Let's see. Now do you know, let's say that there are two cuboids here, two boxes, and they are identical. They have the same size, or you can say like same size and same shape. Now how to test the hardness, or how to tell that who is harder than whom? For doing that, we use the diamonds. Now let's see. So basically what happens is that diamonds, I'm just drawing the tip of the diamond. So this is basically the tip of the diamond here. Yes. Now what happened is that we just push this diamond down, and then this just a little hole or this sign which we get on the object tells how hard it is. For example, if we will just do the same thing to these both objects. Now, can you see very interesting thing here? The diamonds, these both diamonds are also identical. And on the objects, if you will see this, hole type of that, basically it is called indent. Just let me use another marker for this. It is called indent. Yes. Now, if the indent is bigger or if the indent is just larger, so we can say it is, you can say it is not so much hard, and if the indent is just a small one, so we can say it is harder. So if we will compare these two objects, so we can just say that this object is more harder than this object. Let's say the names like A object and B object. So we can say that B object is more, or we can say the B object is harder than the A object. Simple. Now that's how we compare the hardness of two objects. Or you can also just use your hands and just try it, and then you can also say. But from my opinion, I think that this is going to give you an accurate measure, because in many objects, for example these two markers, so am I able to tell who is harder than whom? Because these just have like a same hardness. Now we use this method for comparing the hardness. Now I think that this much is clear to you all. Thank you for watching this video, and have a cheerful day ahead. If you want an improvement in me, so you can comment